Single pregnant woman asked, "Want to buy sweets?" And he answered, "I want a child." Jessica Parker didn't expect her life would collapse like that. At 28 years old, a former teacher at a prestigious private school in New York City, she now walked through the soaked streets of the city with an 8-month belly and a plate of homemade chocolate truffles in her hands. The heavy rain on that Thursday night didn't stop her from trying one last sale before heading home. She stopped in front of the New York City Grand Plaza Hotel, where the golden lights contrasted with the darkness of the storm. That's when she saw an elegant man standing at the entrance, smoking a cigarette. She took a deep breath and approached. "Want to buy sweets?" asked Jessica, extending the plate wet from the rain. Michael Thompson, 35 years old, owner of one of the largest hotel chains in the country, stopped smoking and looked at her. His dark eyes fixed first on her pronounced belly, then on the woman's tired face. "I want a child," he answered with a choked voice. The words came out of his mouth before he could think. Jessica stood frozen, not knowing how to react. The rain continued to fall on both of them, creating a surreal moment amid the bustle of the avenue. "Sorry, Michael tried to explain, running his hand through his wet hair. "Are you all right?" Jessica asked, noticing something different about that man. It wasn't pity or disdain in his eyes, but a deep sadness that she recognized. Michael put out his cigarette on the wet ground. He had just left the doctor's office, where he received the final confirmation that he could never have children. The tests left no doubt about his sterility, the result of an infection not properly treated in his adolescence. "How many chocolate truffles do you have there?" he asked, changing the subject. 30, Jessica replied, still confused by the situation. "How much for all of them?" $60, sir." Michael took his wallet from his jacket and counted $600 bills. Jessica's eyes widened. "That's too much money, sir. I can't accept it." "Yes, you can. You need to get out of this rain," he said, putting the money in her free hand. At that moment, an elegant blonde woman appeared at the hotel door. Amanda Thompson, Michael's wife of 5 years, wore an expensive black dress and an expression of irritation on her face. "Michael, what are you doing out there?" she shouted from the entrance. "And who is this woman?" Michael turned to his wife, trying to explain, but Amanda was already approaching with firm steps. Her eyes scanned Jessica from head to toe, stopping at her large belly. "Security," called Amanda. "Remove this person from here immediately." "No need to call anyone," Jessica said, putting the money in her soaked bag. "I'm already leaving." "Wait," Michael intercepted. "You did nothing wrong." Jessica looked at both of them, feeling the tension in the air. Amanda watched everything with growing suspicion, especially the way her husband looked at the pregnant woman. "Thank you for the sweets, sir," Jessica said softly, and walked away in the rain. Michael stood still, watching the woman's figure disappear into the darkness. Amanda pulled him by the arm, forcefully. "What's this about? Why did you give her money?" she questioned as soon as they entered the hotel. "I bought chocolate truffles. It's nothing serious," Michael replied, trying to sound natural. "Chocolate truffles? You don't even like sweets, Michael. And why were you looking at her like that?" "Like what?" he asked, knowing exactly what his wife was talking about. Amanda didn't answer, but filed that scene away in her memory. She had known her husband for 8 years and had never seen him so affected by a stranger. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Jessica arrived home soaked and exhausted. She lived in a small apartment in the Astoria neighborhood, which she shared with Mrs. Wilson, a 60-year-old woman who had taken her in when she was evicted from her previous apartment. The house smelled of coffee and cake, signs that the lady had stayed up waiting. "How was it today, dear?" Mrs. Wilson asked, appearing in the living room in a floral nightgown. "I managed to sell everything." Jessica showed the money. "Look, Mrs. Wilson, a man bought all the chocolate truffles and gave me $600. "Oh my goodness," the lady exclaimed. "What a blessing! With this money you can pay the overdue rent and even buy a few things for the baby." Jessica smiled for the first time in weeks. For 3 months since she was fired from the school where she taught history, She'd been making a living by selling sweets on the streets. The baby's father, Brandon, had disappeared as soon as he found out about the pregnancy, leaving her without financial or emotional support. "Mrs. Wilson, can I ask you a strange question?" "Go ahead, dear." "If a rich man told you he wanted a child just out of the blue, what would you think?" The elderly woman sat next to Jessica on the old couch. "Rich men have their pains too, dear. Sometimes money can't buy what we want most in life." Jessica became thoughtful. There was something in that man's look that intrigued her. It wasn't lust or sexual interest, but a melancholy she knew well. Meanwhile, in the penthouse of the Grand Plaza Hotel, Michael and Amanda were having dinner in tense silence. She watched him carefully, noticing he had barely touched his food. "Are you going to tell me what really happened down there?" Amanda broke the silence. "I already told you I bought chocolate truffles from a pregnant woman." "And why did you say that strange phrase to her?" Michael dropped his fork. He could no longer hide the weight he had been carrying for months. "Amanda, I need to tell you something." "I already know," she said coldly. "Know what?" "That you can't have children. I got the call from the lab this morning. They wanted to confirm if you had received the results." The silence that followed was deafening. Michael felt as if the floor had disappeared beneath his feet. Amanda had known for hours and hadn't said anything. "Why didn't you talk to me?" he asked with a broken voice. "Because I was thinking." "And do you know what my first reaction was? Relief." "Relief?" "Yes, Michael, relief. Because now I won't have to pretend I want to be a mother anymore." The confession hit Michael like a punch in the stomach. During 5 years of marriage, Amanda had always made excuses to postpone motherhood. She said she wanted to focus on her career, that it wasn't the right time, that they needed to travel more before the children came. "You never wanted children," he murmured, as if understanding everything for the first time. "Never. And you always knew that deep down, but you preferred to believe I would change my mind." Michael got up from the table, feeling nauseous. The woman he was married to had just admitted that she had pretended for years to share his biggest dream. "Where are you going?" Amanda asked, seeing him grab the car keys. "For a drive. I need to think." "Michael, wait. We can adopt if you want children so badly." He stopped at the door, turning to look at her. "Adoption isn't about giving a child to someone who doesn't really want them, Amanda. It's about love." Jessica woke up the next morning feeling the baby moving more than usual. She was only a few weeks away from giving birth and still didn't have money to buy basic items like a crib and a stroller. The money from the previous night would help, but it wouldn't solve everything. She decided to use part of the money to make more chocolate truffles and try to sell them in another location today. Mrs. Wilson helped her in the kitchen, telling stories of when she raised her own children alone after her husband abandoned her. "Do you know how strong you are, Jessica?" the lady said while rolling the sweets. "A woman who raises a child alone develops a strength she never knew she had." "Sometimes I'm so afraid, Mrs. Wilson. Afraid I won't be able to give him a good life." "A mother's love is worth more than all the money in the world, dear. Your boy will have that in abundance." Jessica smiled, stroking her belly. She knew it was a boy because she had an ultrasound at the health clinic. She had already chosen the name Ethan, like the angel who brought good news. At the Grand Plaza Hotel, Michael had stayed up all night in his office, reviewing contracts and trying not to think about the conversation with Amanda. At 9 in the morning, his secretary, Mrs. Linda, entered with coffee and the newspapers. "Good morning, Mr. Michael. Did you sleep here in the office?" "I couldn't sleep. Linda, I need to ask you a personal question." The 55-year-old woman, who had worked with him for 10 years, sat in the chair across from the desk. "Of course, sir. Do you regret having children?" Mrs. Linda smiled warmly. "Never. My 3 boys are the best thing that ever happened to me. Why do you ask?" "Just curious," Michael lied. "Mr. Michael, may I say something?" She hesitated. "You've always wanted to be a father. I see it in your eyes when you see a child in the hotel lobby. Don't give up on that dream because of other people." Michael was surprised by his secretary's observation. He didn't know his emotions were so transparent. "What if I told you I could never have biological children? I'd say a father isn't the one who makes the child, but the one who raises them with love. Mrs. Linda's words echoed in Michael's mind all day. In the afternoon, he decided to go out for a walk and found himself, without realizing it, passing by the place where he had met Jessica the night before. He didn't see her around, but he began to wonder about that woman's story. How had an 8-month pregnant woman come to sell sweets in the rain? Where was the child's father? Did she have family? Amanda spent the day planning how to handle the new situation. She didn't want to lose the marriage, but she also wasn't willing to pretend to want children for the rest of her life. She decided to hire a private investigator to find out more about the pregnant woman who had caught her husband's attention so much. Late in the afternoon, Jessica returned to Fifth Avenue with a new batch of chocolate truffles. This time she stopped in front of an office building, but sales weren't good. People rushed by, ignoring her presence. When she was about to give up, she felt a sharp pain in her belly. The pain passed quickly, but it left her worried. She knew false contractions were normal, but that one had been intense. She decided to go back home, but on the way to the bus stop, she saw the same man from the night before walking alone on the sidewalk. Michael also saw her and stopped. "Hi," he said simply. "Hi," Jessica replied, surprised by the encounter. "How are you?" Michael asked, noticing she looked more tired than the night before. "Fine, thank you. And you?" Michael hesitated. "Can I be honest?" "Not very well." Jessica studied his face. Even well-dressed and apparently successful, there was a sadness in his eyes that she recognized. "Sometimes talking to a stranger helps," she said softly. "Do you have time for coffee?" Michael asked impulsively. Jessica looked at the plate of sweets she was still carrying. "I should be selling these chocolate truffles. I'll buy all of them again." "You don't have to do that." "I know, but I want to." They went to a small, cozy coffee shop 2 blocks away. Michael insisted on paying for the coffee and the sweets, and Jessica accepted because she really needed the money. "May I ask your name?" Michael said after they sat down. Jessica Parker." "Michael Thompson. Nice to meet you." "Thompson. Like the hotel group?" "The same." Jessica felt uncomfortable. "You're the owner?" "I am, but today I'd rather be anyone else." "Why?" Michael stirred his coffee without drinking. "I found out yesterday that I'll never be able to have children, and my wife told me she never actually wanted to be a mother." Jessica was shocked by his honesty. "Oh my, I'm so sorry. And you? Is the baby's father around?" "No. He disappeared when he found out about the pregnancy." "I'm sorry too." They sat in silence for a moment, 2 strangers united by the pain of shattered dreams. "Can I ask a question?" Jessica said. "Why did you say that yesterday, about wanting a child?" Michael took a deep breath. "Because it was the first thing that crossed my mind when I saw you. You're carrying the life I always wanted to give to the world, but never will be able to. You can still be a father. There's adoption, fertilization. My wife made it clear she doesn't want to be a mother in any way, and I can't force someone to have children." Jessica felt a twinge of pain again, but tried to ignore it. "Have you thought about separating?" "Until yesterday, never. Today, it's all I think about." "Relationships are complicated," Jessica said, remembering her own experience with Brandon. "Did you love Gabriel's father?" "Gabriel?" Jessica smiled. "How did you know the name?" "Just a hunch." "And did you love him?" "I thought I did, but when he left I realized I was more in love with the idea of having a family than with him." Michael nodded, understanding perfectly. "Sometimes we build our whole lives on an illusion." "But you built an empire," Jessica pointed out. "That's not an illusion. It means nothing if I can't share it with someone I truly love." Jessica felt another pain, stronger this time. She took a deep breath, trying to disguise it. "Are you all right?" Michael noticed. "Just some false contractions. It's normal late in pregnancy." "Are you sure?" "Yes, it happens all the time." But when the third pain came, Jessica could no longer hide it. She doubled over in her chair, clutching her belly. "Jessica!" Michael stood up, alarmed. I think they're not false contractions," she said with difficulty. Michael didn't think twice. He picked Jessica up and carried her out of the coffee shop, hailing a taxi. "To Mount Sinai Hospital, quick!" he shouted to the driver. On the way, Jessica squeezed Michael's hand, trying to breathe as she had learned in the health center's prenatal class. The contractions were becoming more frequent. "It's all right," Michael repeated, more to himself than to her. "Everything will be fine." "Why are you doing this?" Jessica asked between pains. "You don't even know me." Michael looked at her, not knowing how to explain that he felt an inexplicable connection to this woman and the child she was carrying. "Because it's the right thing to do," was all he could say. They reached the hospital in 15 minutes. Michael carried Jessica into the emergency room, where she was immediately attended by the medical team. "Are you the father?" the nurse asked. Michael hesitated. "No, I'm a friend." "Then you'll have to wait in the waiting room." "Please," Jessica called before he left. "Don't go." "I won't," Michael promised. While Jessica was being examined, Michael called his secretary and cancelled all his appointments for the day. Then he called home and told Amanda he wouldn't be back for dinner. "Where are you?" Amanda asked suspiciously. "At the hospital." "Hospital? What happened?" "A friend is having her baby." "What friend? Since when do you have pregnant friends?" Michael hung up without answering. He didn't have the energy for another argument with Amanda. 2 hours later, the nurse returned with news. "The mother-to-be is fine, but the baby is in a complicated position. We'll have to do an emergency C-section." Could there be any complications?" Michael asked worriedly. "It's a risky procedure, but she's in good condition. Can you authorize the surgery as her responsible party?" "I'm not the responsible party. Doesn't she have any family we can call?" "She said she only has you. Asked for you to sign the papers." Michael felt an enormous weight on his shoulders. Jessica had just placed her life and her son's in the hands of a stranger. Her trust touched him deeply. "Where do I sign?" Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, the surgery lasted 3 hours. Michael spent all that time walking through the hospital corridors, praying for 2 people he barely knew. He couldn't understand why he cared so much, but he knew his life had changed completely in just 2 days. At 11 at night, the doctor appeared with a smile on his face. "Mother and baby are doing well. It was a beautiful boy. 7 pounds. Michael felt his legs go weak with relief. "Can I see them?" "The mother is still in recovery, but the baby is already in the nursery. Would you like to meet your son?" "He's not my son," Michael corrected automatically. "Sorry, I thought you were the father." "No, I'm just..." Michael stopped. What exactly was he? "I'm a friend." In the nursery, through the glass, Michael saw Ethan for the first time. The baby slept peacefully, with closed fists and soft breathing. Something moved in Michael's chest, an emotion he'd never felt before. "He's perfect," he whispered. "Would you like to hold him?" the nurse asked. "May I?" "Of course, I'll get him." When Michael held Ethan for the first time, he felt as if the world had stopped. The baby opened his dark eyes, identical to his mother's, and looked directly at him. In that moment, Michael was certain that this child would change his life forever. "Hi, Ethan," he murmured. "Your daddy is an idiot, but don't worry. You're going to have lots of love in your life." Jessica woke up the next morning, still groggy from the anesthesia. The first thing she asked about was the baby. "He's fine, don't worry," said the nurse. "Such a sweet child. And that man who brought you in yesterday spent the whole night here at the hospital. Is he still here?" "Yes, he is. In fact, he hasn't left for a single minute. Said he promised he wouldn't go." Jessica felt her eyes fill with tears. She couldn't understand why a stranger was being more present than her own family. Michael appeared in the doorway a little later, carrying a bouquet of yellow flowers and a bag of baby clothes. How are you? He asked, approaching the bed. Fine. Thank you for everything you did. I don't know how I'll ever thank you. You don't need to thank me at all. How are you feeling? Sore but happy. The doctor said I can see Ethan soon. He's beautiful, Jessica, just like you. You've already seen him? Yes, I have. I hope you don't mind. I was so worried. Of course I don't mind. Actually, I'm glad someone saw my son be born, even if it wasn't his father. Michael sat in the chair next to the bed. Jessica, can I ask you a personal question? Sure. Do you have somewhere to go when you leave the hospital? Jessica hesitated. The truth was, she was staying at Mrs. Wilson's house as a favor, and a newborn baby would be one more mouth to feed. Yes, I do, she lied. Because if you need help with anything at all, I want to help. Why? Jessica asked the question that had been tormenting her since the day before. Michael was silent for a long moment. Because when I saw you last night, for the first time in months, I felt there was some purpose in my life. And today, when I held Ethan in my arms, I knew I wanted to be part of your lives. Both of you, if you'll let me. But you don't even know me. I know you're brave, that you're a devoted mother, and that you have a good heart. That's more than I know about people I've known for years. Jessica Parker was moved. Michael, I can't accept charity. It's not charity, he searched for the right words, it's a family you choose, not one you're born into. At that moment, the nurse arrived with Ethan in her arms. Jessica received him with tears in her eyes, feeling the purest love she had ever experienced. Hello, my love, she whispered to her son. Mommy is here. Michael watched the scene and felt his heart break and rebuild itself at the same time. He knew he wanted to be part of that family, even if he wasn't Ethan's biological father. Jessica, he said softly, I know it's too early to talk about this, but when you feel ready, I'd like to discuss how I can officially help you both. Officially, how? I don't know yet. Maybe as Ethan's godfather, or as a friend who wants to be present for all the important moments in his life. Jessica looked at Michael, then at her son in her arms. Are you serious? I've never been more serious in my life. 3 days later, Jessica was discharged from the hospital. Michael had paid all the medical expenses and insisted on driving her home in his car. On the way, Jessica directed him to the Astoria neighborhood, and Michael realized how different her reality was from his. It's here, Jessica said, when they stopped in front of a simple house with an iron gate. Michael got out of the car and helped Jessica with the baby and the bags. Mrs. Wilson appeared at the door, curious to meet the man who had saved her tenant. So you're Michael, the lady said, looking him up and down. Jessica told me everything. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Wilson. Come in, come in. I'll make some coffee. Inside the house, Michael observed the simple but cozy environment. There were flowers in every corner and the smell of homemade cake in the air. It was completely different from the cold luxury of his penthouse. Your home is beautiful, he said to Mrs. Wilson. It's not a house, it's a home, she replied with a smile. There's a difference. Michael understood perfectly what she meant. His mansion was just an expensive house. That place was a real home. Jessica, can I talk to you for a minute? He asked. They went out to the small backyard where Ethan was sleeping in the stroller Michael had bought at the hospital. I want to make a proposal to you, Michael began. What kind of proposal? I want to offer you a job. Jessica was surprised. What kind of job? Coordinator of the social program for my hotels. It's a position I'm creating specifically for you. Michael, I'm grateful for everything, but I can't accept a job as a favor. It's not a favor. You have a degree in history, right? You worked as a teacher. I did, but I was fired. Why? Jessica lowered her head, embarrassed. Because I was pregnant and without a husband. The school is Catholic and traditional. They said I was no longer a good example for the students. Michael felt anger toward those people who had judged Jessica. Well, now you can be an example of overcoming and strength. I want to create a program to help single mothers like you. You know this reality better than any consultant I could hire. Even so, Jessica, look at me. Michael held her hands. I need you as much as you need work. My life was empty until I met you two. Let me be part of your family, please. Jessica looked into his eyes and saw pure sincerity. Are you sure about this? Absolutely. And your wife? Will she accept this? Michael hesitated. Amanda and we're having problems. Actually, we're separating. Because of me? No, Jessica. Because of years of lies and pretense. You just helped me see the truth. At that moment, Ethan woke up and started to cry. Jessica picked him up and Michael watched how she transformed when she was with her son. She was a natural mother, full of love and protective instinct. Can I hold him? Michael asked. Jessica handed him the baby, and once again Michael felt that inexplicable connection. Ethan immediately calmed down in his arms. I think he likes you, Jessica smiled. I love him, Michael said without thinking, then blushed. Sorry, that was too intense. No need to apologize, I see how you look at him, and he calms down with you in a way he doesn't with anyone else. Mrs. Wilson appeared at the backyard door. Coffee's ready, and Michael, can I have a word? Michael handed Ethan to Jessica and followed the woman to the kitchen. Listen here, young man, Mrs. Wilson said quietly. I don't know what your intentions are with Jessica and the baby, but I'll tell you one thing. This girl has suffered enough. If you're playing with her, you'd better stop now. Mrs. Wilson, I would never hurt Jessica or Ethan. You'd better not, because if you hurt my girl, you'll have to deal with me. And I may be small, but I have a sharp tongue and many friends in the neighborhood. Michael smiled at the woman's affectionate threat. You don't need to worry. I want to take care of them forever. All right then. Now have this coffee and eat this cake I made special to celebrate Ethan's arrival. That afternoon, Michael spent hours in the Simple House, talking with the two women and holding Ethan. He felt happier and more complete than in years of luxurious living. When he left, he promised to return the next day to talk more about the job offer. Jessica stood at the window, watching the expensive car disappear down the narrow street. What do you think of him? She asked Mrs. Wilson. I think he's a lost man who found his family, and you, what do you think? Jessica looked at Ethan, who slept peacefully in her arms. I think maybe Ethan got the father that Brandon never could be. Meanwhile, in the hotel penthouse, Amanda waited for Michael with a very unfriendly face. She had hired a private investigator who already had the first information about Jessica. Where have you been all day? She asked as soon as he entered. I said I was at the hospital. And after? You disappeared all afternoon. I went to see Jessica and the baby's home. Oh, so now she has a name and the baby too. How convenient. Michael sat on the sofa, tired of the constant arguments. Amanda, I don't want to fight. We already have serious matters to resolve. Like our separation? Like our separation, he confirmed. Amanda threw a folder on the coffee table. Before we decide anything, you need to see this. Michael opened the folder and found photos of Jessica selling sweets on the street, documents about her dismissal from the school, and information about Brandon, Ethan's father. You had her investigated? Michael asked, shocked. Of course I did. My husband is obsessed with a stranger. I wanted to know who I'm dealing with. And what did you find out? That your new crush is an unemployed teacher who was fired for being a single mother. The child's father is a salesman who has two other families in different cities. A real charmer. Michael felt anger toward Brandon, but not toward Jessica. If anything, the information only confirmed his opinion of her character. So what? He asked. What do you mean, so what? Michael, this woman is an opportunist. She saw a lonely millionaire and grabbed the chance. Amanda, Jessica did nothing to win me over. In fact, she tried to refuse my help several times. Oh, please. It's the oldest strategy in the world. Playing hard to get to seem honest. Michael closed the folder angrily. Do you know what this investigation proved to me? What? That Jessica is a woman of character who was abandoned by a scoundrel, lost her job due to prejudice, and is still fighting to give the best to her son. While you, who had every opportunity in the world, never truly loved anything or anyone. How dare you? I dare because it's the truth, Michael exploded. Jessica taught me more about love and family in 2 days than you did in 5 years of marriage. Amanda fell silent, processing her husband's declaration. You're in love with her. I'm in love with the possibility of being Ethan's father. I'm in love with the idea of having a real family. If that includes Jessica, even better. Michael, you can't build a family with a woman you barely know, but I can live a lie with a woman I've known for years. Amanda knew she had lost the argument. So now what? Now we separate like civilized adults. You keep the part of our assets you always wanted, and I get the freedom to be happy. That night, Michael barely slept. He kept thinking about Jessica and Ethan, imagining what it would be like to wake up every day, knowing he had a family to care for and protect. In the Astoria neighborhood, Jessica also spent the night awake, feeding Ethan his bottle and thinking about Michael's proposal. She knew accepting his help would change her life completely, but she was afraid of making the wrong decision. "Mrs. Wilson," she called softly, "are you awake?" "Yes, dear. What is it?" "Do you think I'm right to trust Michael?" The lady sat up in bed. "Jessica, at my age, I've learned there are few truly good people in the world. When we find one, we can't let them slip away out of fear." "But what if he gets tired of playing family? What if this is just a phase for him?" "What if it's forever?" Mrs. Wilson countered. "Dear, you can't live in fear of what might go wrong. Sometimes we have to have faith in the good people who cross our path." Jessica knew the lady was right. Michael had appeared in her life at the most difficult moment and helped her without asking for anything in return. Perhaps it was time to trust fate. The next morning, Michael showed up early at Mrs. Wilson's house with an official work contract and a proposal that would leave Jessica speechless. "Did you read everything?" he asked after she finished reading the papers. "Michael, this is a lot of money, much more than I made as a teacher. It's the fair salary for the position. And there's one more thing." "What?" "I want to be Ethan's official godfather, with paperwork and everything." Jessica felt her eyes fill with tears. "Are you serious?" "I've never been more serious in my life. I want to be there for all his important moments. First day of school, birthdays, graduations, everything. What if you meet someone and build your own family?" "Jessica." Michael held her hands. "I've already found my family. It's the two of you." Mrs. Wilson, who was listening from the kitchen, came into the living room, drying her hands on her apron. "Jessica, sign those papers before the man changes his mind." Everyone laughed, and Jessica finally signed the contract and the godparent documents. "Welcome to the family," Michael said, hugging Jessica and Ethan. 6 months later, everyone's life had completely changed. Jessica worked in the social program of the Michael Thompson Hotels, helping other single mothers rebuild their lives. The program was a success and had already been replicated in other cities. Ethan was growing up surrounded by love, with Michael strictly keeping his promise to be there for all the important moments. The boy already smiled when he saw his godfather and calmed down just at the sound of his voice. Michael and Amanda had divorced amicably. She moved to Los Angeles, where she opened an art gallery, finally pursuing her own dreams. Mrs. Wilson received a new apartment as a gift from Michael, but preferred to stay in the old house because her memories were there. Michael respected the decision and simply renovated the entire house. On a Sunday afternoon, Michael was in Mrs. Wilson's backyard playing with Ethan, who was already crawling and trying to say his first words. Jessica watched them from the kitchen window, where she was helping the lady prepare lunch. "You know what impresses me most about him," Jessica said to Mrs. Wilson. "What?" "How he looks at Ethan. It's exactly the way a father should look at his son." "That's because in his heart Ethan is truly his son," Mrs. Wilson replied wisely. At that moment, Ethan babbled something that sounded like "Daddy" and stretched his little arms toward Michael. Both Michael and Jessica froze. "Did he say?" Michael asked emotionally. "Daddy," Ethan repeated more clearly, smiling at Michael. Michael picked up the boy in his arms with tears in his eyes. "Hi, my son. Daddy is here." Jessica ran out of the kitchen and hugged them both, crying with happiness. Mrs. Wilson appeared in the doorway, drying her hands, and was also moved by the scene. "Now it's officially a family," she said. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. 2 years had passed, and the life of the chosen family had become even more solid. Ethan was already walking and speaking short phrases, always calling Michael Daddy and Jessica Mommy. To him, that was the only family he knew, and Michael couldn't be happier. Jessica had become one of the most respected executives in the company, and her social program had won national awards. She and Michael worked together every day, and between them had grown a deep friendship and immense mutual respect. Mrs. Wilson, at 62, had become Ethan's official grandmother and Michael's life advisor. He visited her every Sunday and had developed the habit of asking her advice about everything. On a Thursday evening, Michael was having dinner with Jessica and Ethan at the house in Astoria when his phone rang. It was his mother, Dorothy Thompson, 65 years old, calling from Chicago. "Michael, I need to talk to you. It's urgent." "What happened, Mom?" "I'm coming to New York City tomorrow. I need to meet this family you've chosen." Michael grew nervous. His mother was a traditional and conservative woman. He didn't know how she would react to the situation. "Mom, it's not exactly—" "Michael, I'm 65 years old. I don't have time for beating around the bush. If that boy is my grandson in heart, I want to meet him. If this Jessica is important to you, I want to meet her too." "Okay, Mom, come." Jessica noticed Michael's tension after the call. "Your mother is coming?" "Yes, and she wants to meet you both." "Michael, does she know Ethan isn't your biological son?" "She knows, but to her that doesn't matter. She always said family is who loves you, not who shares the same blood." Jessica grew nervous. What if Michael's mother didn't like her? What if she thought she was an opportunist like Amanda had always insinuated? "Calm down." Michael noticed her anxiety. "My mother will love both of you, I'm sure." The next day, Dorothy Thompson arrived in New York City by plane. She was an elegant woman, with well-cut gray hair and intelligent eyes. Michael picked her up from the airport and took her straight to meet Jessica and Ethan. At Mrs. Wilson's house, Jessica was more nervous than ever. She had cleaned the house 3 times and prepared a special lunch. Ethan played in the backyard, oblivious to the adults' tension. When Michael arrived with his mother, Mrs. Wilson was the first to greet her. "Mrs. Dorothy, welcome. I'm Margaret, Ethan's grandma." "Pleasure, Mrs. Wilson. Michael has told me a lot about you." Jessica appeared in the doorway, holding Ethan in her arms. The boy, who was already used to visitors, waved happily at the stranger. "Mom, this is Jessica, and this is Ethan." Dorothy approached slowly, studying Jessica's face and then Ethan's. For a moment, Jessica feared the older woman's reaction. "May I hold my grandson?" Dorothy asked with emotion in her voice. Jessica handed over Ethan, who immediately began playing with his new grandmother's pearl necklace. "Hello, my love," Dorothy whispered to the boy. "Grandma Dorothy missed you so much." "He's beautiful, isn't he?" Michael said proudly. "He's perfect, just like his father." Jessica and Michael exchanged confused glances. "Mom, Ethan isn't exactly like me." "Not like the biological Michael," Dorothy clarified, "but like Michael the father. He has the same sweet smile and the same kind eyes." Michael was moved by his mother's words. Dorothy turned to Jessica. "And you, my dear, are even more beautiful than Michael described." "Thank you, Mrs. Dorothy. Michael has told me so much about you too." "I hope it was all good things," Dorothy smiled. "Now tell me, how did you two really meet? I want to hear the full story." During lunch, Jessica told the whole story, from the rainy night to the present day. Dorothy listened attentively, asking questions and becoming emotional at various moments. "You know what impresses me most about this story?" Dorothy said at the end. "It's seeing how my son has transformed. He was always a good man, but he was lost. You two gave purpose to his life." "He also completely changed our lives," Jessica replied. "Ethan has the best father he could ever have." "And you, Jessica? How do you feel about my son?" The question took Jessica by surprise. She and Michael had never spoken about romantic feelings, only about the family they had built together. I care for him deeply. Respect, admiration." "Is that all?" Dorothy insisted, with a mischievous smile. Jessica blushed. The truth was that over the 2 years, her feelings for Michael had evolved far beyond gratitude and friendship. "Mom," Michael interrupted, noticing Jessica's embarrassment. "Leave her alone." Okay. But I want you both to know that I completely approve of this family. And now I want to be officially introduced as Grandma Dorothy." That afternoon, Dorothy played with Ethan in the backyard, while chatting with Mrs. Wilson about recipes and family stories. The two women understood each other immediately. Michael and Jessica were washing dishes in the kitchen, watching the scene through the window. "Your mother is wonderful," Jessica said. "She really likes you both." "I knew she would." "Michael, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Have you never thought about dating someone, building a biological family?" Michael stopped drying the plates. "Why do you ask?" "Because you're an amazing man. Any woman would be happy to have a family with you." "Jessica," Michael turned to look at her. "I already have a family. I have you and Ethan. I don't need anything else." "But what if you fall in love with someone?" "What if I'm already in love?" The following silence was charged with tension. Jessica felt her heart accelerate. "With whom?" she asked quietly. Michael moved closer to her, taking her soapy hands in his. "With a courageous woman I met on a rainy night. With a dedicated mother who fights for her son every day. With a person of integrity who taught me what real love is." Jessica felt her eyes fill with tears. "Michael, I love you, Jessica. I love you and I love Ethan as if you've always been my family. But I never said anything because I didn't want you to think I was confusing gratitude with love. Are you sure about what you're feeling?" "I am. And you?" Jessica looked at him, seeing in the depths of his eyes the same certainty she felt in her own heart. "I love you too, I have for a long time, but I was afraid of ruining what we've built." Michael kissed her gently, a kiss full of love and promises for the future. When they separated, Ethan came running into the kitchen. "Daddy, Mommy, Grandma Dorothy said she's going to make chocolate truffles." Michael picked up the boy. "And what do you think about that, champ?" "I really want some." Ethan clapped his hands. Jessica smiled, seeing father and son together. Finally, her family was complete in every possible way. Dorothy appeared at the kitchen door and saw the different smiles on their faces. "It seems you two have finally worked things out," she said with satisfaction. "How did you know?" Jessica asked. "Jessica, my dear, I'm 65 years old. I know true love when I see it. You two have been in love since day one, you just didn't have the courage to admit it." That evening, Dorothy stayed for dinner and put Ethan to bed, singing lullabies that Michael recognized from his own childhood. Later, the three adults sat in the living room to talk. "Michael, I need to tell you something," Dorothy began. "When you married Amanda, I knew it wouldn't work out." "You knew? Why?" "Because you didn't look at each other with love. You looked at each other with convenience. But today, seeing you with Jessica and Ethan, I saw what a real family looks like." "Thank you for accepting us, Mrs. Dorothy," Jessica said emotionally. "Accept? My dear, I was praying you would come into my son's life. He was becoming a bitter and lonely man. You saved him." "Actually," Michael held Jessica's hand, "they saved me too." The next day, Dorothy returned to Chicago, but not before making Jessica promise to visit her soon with Ethan. She wanted to show her grandson the city and introduce them to relatives. "Grandma Dorothy is going to miss us," Ethan said, waving at the airport. "And we're going to miss her too," Jessica replied. In the following months, Michael and Jessica officially started dating, to the delight of Mrs. Wilson and Ethan. The boy was overjoyed when he learned that Daddy and Mommy were dating like in the movies he watched. The company's social program continued to grow. Jessica had created a training center for single mothers, offering vocational courses and psychological support. The initiative caught the attention of the media and international organizations. One Friday evening, Michael was playing with Ethan in the living room when his phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello? Michael Thompson?" a male voice asked. "Yes, who's speaking?" "Brandon Miller. I'm Ethan's biological father." Michael felt his blood run cold. Jessica, who was in the kitchen, noticed the change in his voice and came closer. "What do you want?" Michael asked coldly. "I want to meet my son. I heard you're together now, and the boy is being well raised." I want to be part of his life. Where have you been for the past 2 years? I had problems. I needed to step away. But now I'm stable and I want to take responsibility. Jessica snatched the phone from Michael's hands. Brandon, it's Jessica. What kind of responsibilities? Jessica, how are you? I heard you got a good job. I want to see our son. Our son? Jessica laughed bitterly. You disappeared when you found out I was pregnant. You left me to struggle. Where were you when Ethan was born? When he got sick? When he took his first steps? I know I made mistakes, but I want to make them right. I have rights as a father. Rights? You gave up any rights when you abandoned me pregnant. Michael took the phone back. Brandon, if you want to see Ethan, you'll have to go to court. And even then, you'll have to prove you can provide emotional stability for a child. I'm thinking about doing just that. I'm going to pursue my rights. Go ahead, but know that Ethan has a father now, a father who loves him and takes care of him every day. Michael hung up the phone, and Jessica collapsed on the couch, trembling. What if he manages to take Ethan away from me? She cried. That won't happen. Michael comforted her. Ethan is registered as your son. Brandon abandoned you. No judge will side with him. But what if... Jessica, look at me. Ethan is our son, ours, and I will fight with all my strength to protect our family. Ethan, who had witnessed part of the conversation, approached his mother with his childlike innocence. Is Mommy sad? He asked, climbing onto her lap. Just a little, my love, but it's over now. Daddy will take care of Mommy, Ethan said, hugging Michael too. Always, Michael promised. In the following days, Michael hired the best family lawyers in New York City. They analyzed the case and were categorical. Brandon would only be entitled to supervised visits, and that only if he could prove he had the emotional and financial means to contribute to his son's upbringing. The fact that he abandoned you while pregnant weighs heavily against him, explained the lawyer, Dr. Jennifer Davis, and the fact that Ethan has been raised by you two since birth is also an important factor. What if he makes something up about us? Jessica asked worriedly. He can try, but you have an exemplary life. Michael is a respected businessman. You work in social programs. Ethan is a healthy and happy child. Any judge will see that he is in a stable family. Even so, Jessica couldn't relax. The possibility of losing Ethan, however remote, terrified her. Michael realized how much she was suffering and made a decision. On a Sunday night, after Ethan fell asleep, he knelt in Mrs. Wilson's living room. Jessica Parker, will you marry me? Jessica was speechless. Michael, you don't have to do this because of Brandon. I'm not doing it because of him. I'm doing it because I love you, and I want us to be an official family. I want to legally adopt Ethan, and for him to have my last name. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Will you marry me? Jessica looked at the man who had completely changed her life, who loved her son as if he were his own blood, who supported her through every difficult moment. Yes, she said through tears. Yes, I will marry you. Mrs. Wilson, who was listening from the kitchen, came into the living room clapping. Finally, I've been waiting for this proposal for months. They all laughed together, and Michael placed a simple but beautiful ring on Jessica's finger. It's not very extravagant, he apologized. It's perfect, Jessica replied, like everything in our story. The wedding was set for 2 months later, enough time to resolve the legal matters and organize a simple but meaningful party. Dorothy came back from Chicago to help with the preparations, and Ethan was overjoyed to learn he would be Michael's official son. Brandon tried to file a lawsuit, but he gave up when he learned of the impending marriage and the adoption Michael would do. His lawyer advised him that his chances of getting anything were minimal. He gave up, Dr. Jennifer called to deliver the news. He dropped the lawsuit. Jessica cried with relief. She could finally focus only on the happiness of building an official family with Michael. The wedding was held in an intimate ceremony at the courthouse, followed by a party in Mrs. Wilson's backyard. Only the most important people were present. Dorothy, some close employees from the company, colleagues from the social program, and dear neighbors from the area. Ethan was the ring bearer, carrying the rings with the seriousness of a grown-up. He looked handsome in his little blue suit, just like his father's. "Do you take Michael Thompson to be your husband?" asked the judge. "I do," Jessica answered with a firm voice and an overflowing heart. "Do you take Jessica Parker to be your wife?" "I do," Michael said, looking into her eyes with infinite love. When they kissed as husband and wife, Ethan shouted, "Hooray!" and the whole party applauded with emotion. At the party, Mrs. Wilson gave a speech that moved everyone. "I saw this girl arrive here pregnant, lost and without hope. I saw this man appear in our lives like an angel. And today I see a family that was built with love, not with convention. Ethan gained the best father in the world, Jessica gained a true companion, and Michael gained the family he always dreamed of. May God bless you three forever." After the party, Michael, Jessica, and Ethan moved to a new house that Michael had bought in the Brooklyn Heights neighborhood. It was smaller than his old penthouse, but it had a backyard for Ethan to play in and space to host family. "Why didn't you want a bigger house?" Jessica asked while they were organizing Ethan's room. "Because a big house without love is empty. A small house with love is a palace." Jessica smiled, remembering Mrs. Wilson's words about the difference between a house and a home. 1 year after the wedding, Ethan was 4 years old and was a happy and smart child. He called Michael Daddy with total naturalness and had already completely forgotten about Brandon's existence. The company's social program had expanded to 10 cities, helping over 1,000 single mothers. Jessica became a national reference on the subject and was frequently invited to give lectures and attend conferences. Michael had discovered a new passion in being a father. He took Ethan to school every day, helped with homework, and never missed a school presentation or party. One Saturday afternoon, the three were in the park when Ethan asked a question that took them by surprise. "Daddy, Mommy, when am I going to get a little brother?" Michael and Jessica looked at each other, laughing at the child's innocence. "Why do you want a little brother?" Jessica asked. "Because Tyler in my class has a baby at home, and he said it's really cool to play with him." "What if the little brother is a little sister?" Michael asked. "Either way, I want to teach him the things you taught me, Daddy." That night, after Ethan fell asleep, Michael and Jessica talked about the possibility of having more children. "Would you like to have a baby?" Michael asked. "With you, of course, but what? You won't feel differently about Ethan if we have a biological child." Michael became serious. "Jessica, look at me. Ethan is my son, period. If we have other children, they will be his siblings, not half-siblings. To me, there is no difference." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. Ethan taught me how to be a father. He will always be my first child, no matter what happens." Jessica smiled, hugging her husband. "Then let's try to give him a little brother." 6 months later, Jessica discovered she was pregnant. When they told Ethan, he got so excited that he started talking to his mother's belly every day. "Hi, baby. I'm your big brother, Ethan. You're going to really like Daddy and Mommy. They're the best in the world." Dorothy was overjoyed with the news that she would have another grandchild. Mrs. Wilson immediately started knitting baby clothes. Throughout the pregnancy, Michael was even more affectionate and present. He made sure to attend every doctor's appointment and assembled the baby's crib with Ethan's help. "This one will be my first biological child," Michael said to Jessica one night, stroking her 7-month belly. "Michael, let me finish. He will be my first biological child, but he won't be more important than Ethan. Ethan taught me what it means to be a father. This baby will be born into a family that already exists, that already has love and structure. He's getting an experienced father thanks to Ethan." Jessica cried with emotion, knowing she had chosen the right man to be the father of her children. Little Emma was born on a sunny spring morning. Ethan was at school when Jessica went into labor, and Michael called Mrs. Wilson to pick him up directly from school. "Daddy, was Emma born?" Ethan asked excitedly as soon as he arrived at the hospital. "Yes, she was, champ. Do you want to meet your little sister?" In the nursery, Ethan looked at Emma with complete adoration. "She's so tiny," he whispered. "You were like that too when you were born," Michael explained. "Can I pet her?" "Of course you can." Ethan gently touched his sister's little hand, and she immediately squeezed his finger. "Look, Daddy, she liked me." "Of course she did. You're the best big brother in the world." When Jessica came out of recovery, she found Michael holding Emma, while Ethan sang a lullaby he had learned at school. "Our family is complete," she said emotionally. "It really is," Michael agreed, looking at the three loves of his life. 2 years later, Emma was already walking and saying a few words. Ethan, now 6 years old, was a dedicated and protective big brother. He helped bathe his sister, told her bedtime stories, and felt proud whenever she sought him out in moments of fear. Michael's company had become a national benchmark for social responsibility. The program created by Jessica was now operating in 20 cities and had received international awards. The family lived in the same house in Brooklyn Heights, which they had expanded to accommodate Emma. The backyard was always full of toys and children's laughter. Mrs. Wilson, now 67 years old, visited every Sunday and was the official grandma to both children. Dorothy came from Chicago every month and had become Mrs. Wilson's best friend. On a Thursday evening, Michael was helping Ethan with his homework while Jessica was giving Emma a bath. It was a common domestic scene, but one that filled him with gratitude every day. "Daddy," Ethan said suddenly, "can I ask you a question?" "Of course, son." "Why do some kids at school say you're not my real dad?" Michael stopped helping with the math and looked at the boy. He knew this day would come. "What do you think about that?" "I think they don't know what they're talking about. You are my real dad." "And why are you so sure?" "Because you take care of me, play with me, help me when I'm sad, pick me up from school, tell me bedtime stories. That's what a dad does, right?" Michael felt his eyes fill with tears. "That's exactly right, champ." "So they're wrong. You are my real dad." "Ethan, I want to tell you a story. Do you want to hear it?" "Yes," Michael told his son, in an age-appropriate way, how they met. He talked about the rainy night, how he fell in love with the idea of being his dad, and how he had always dreamed of having a family. "So you chose me to be your son?" Ethan asked in amazement. "Yes, I did. And it was the best choice I ever made in my life. And I choose you to be my dad too." Michael hugged the boy tightly, feeling the purest love he had ever experienced. "I love you, son." "I love you too, Daddy." Jessica appeared at the bedroom door with Emma in her arms, still wet from her bath. She had heard the whole conversation and was emotional. "Come here, family," she called. Everyone hugged together, and Emma clapped her little hands, happy to be in the middle of the family's affection. That night, after the children were asleep, Michael and Jessica sat in the backyard to talk. "Do you regret anything?" Jessica asked. "What?" "Changing your life completely for a strange pregnant woman you met in the rain." Michael laughed, remembering that night that changed everything. "Jessica, before I met you, I had money, success, a seemingly perfect life. But I was empty inside. Now I have a real family, children who love me, a wife who is my best friend. How could I ever regret the best thing that's ever happened to me? Sometimes it feels like a dream, a story someone made up. But it's our story, and it began with a simple question on a rainy night. Want to buy some chocolate truffles?" Jessica remembered, smiling. "I want a son," Michael completed. "And now you have two." "I have a whole family. The family I always dreamed of but never imagined I'd find the way I did." Jessica snuggled against her husband's chest, listening to his heartbeat. "You know what I think?" she said. "What?" "That sometimes the best families aren't the ones we're born into. They're the ones we build with love, patience, and right choices every day." "I completely agree. And you know what else?" "What?" "Our story is still just beginning. Ethan and Emma will grow up, we'll grow old together, maybe have grandchildren. We have a whole lifetime of family ahead of us." "A whole lifetime," Jessica repeated dreamily. From the children's room, they could hear Ethan singing softly to Emma, who had woken up. It was a lullaby Michael always sang to him. "He's going to be a wonderful father someday," Jessica commented. "Yes, he will, because he learned from a young age what it means to truly love. Just like Emma. Just like Emma." They stayed silent, just enjoying the peace of a happy family. From inside the house, they could hear Ethan talking to his sister. "Emma, tomorrow Daddy's taking us to the park. You'll love the swings. and Mommy's making that yummy snack she always makes. Our family is the best in the world, you know." Michael and Jessica smiled, knowing they had managed to give their children what's most precious, a home full of love and security. "Thank you," Jessica said suddenly. "Why?" "For giving me the chance to build this family with you, for loving Ethan from the very first moment, for being the man I always dreamed existed, but never believed I'd actually find. Thank you for appearing in my life that night, for letting me be part of your lives, for teaching me what unconditional love means." They kissed slowly, sealing once more the commitment to love they had made years ago under unlikely circumstances. Their story had begun with a question about chocolate truffles and the most sincere answer Michael had ever given in his life. Now, years later, they knew that some of the best love stories begin in the most unexpected moments, when two lost people find each other and decide to build together what they had always searched for separately. Ethan and Emma would grow up knowing that family isn't about DNA or last names. It's about choosing to love every day, about being present during difficult times, about celebrating both small and big victories together. And Michael, who once told a stranger he wanted a son, discovered that destiny is sometimes more generous than our wildest dreams. He didn't just gain a son. He gained a whole family, built brick by brick with love, dedication, and the certainty that life's best gifts come when we least expect them. End of story. And you? What did you think of this family that formed in such a special way? Leave your comment telling us which part moved you most, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming stories.